414-282-4220 or go to bluemells.com.
Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Holly, let's go to the IV Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard hotline and bring in our next guest.
Summer Rayne Oakes is all about infusing sustainable thinking and practices into the heart of the fashion, beauty, and food industries. Most recently, she has been focused on sustainable food, agriculture, and horticultural systems and our connection to what we grow and what we eat. She lives in Brooklyn with her pet foster hen. Welcome to the program, Summer.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for taking time out of, obviously, your very busy schedule to join Holly, myself, and all of our listeners and enlighten us with some of your gardening wisdom with all of us. You're passionate about houseplants, and what are some good houseplant watering hacks? People often put them in their home, forget about them. What are some ways in which we can keep them watered, and what are some tricks?
Well, I think the first thing to know is that you really want to water plants in relation to the light that you're giving them. So if you're giving them a lot of intense light, you're going to need to water them more. So if you're traveling, then I would say pull your plants a little bit further back from the light, just so you don't have to water them as much. And I think that there's other great ways to hack the watering system. And I actually highlight this on my YouTube channel, Plant One On Me, but I love these things called hydro spikes, and they work with terracotta spikes that you could put water in, and then they have a tube coming out of the terracotta spike top, and you put that tube in a watering vessel, and it pulls up the water through capillary action and can actually water the plants for you.
So when we talk about capillary action, the plant is basically watering itself when that spike is inserted with the water capsule, and it only draws the moisture when it needs it.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, there are certain things that could prohibit that. So a hydro spike is not like the be-all, end-all. Oftentimes you could get gunked up with minerals in the water. So it's something that you wouldn't use on a regular basis, but definitely something that you could use to help you out if you're traveling or if you're going on vacation with your and you're leaving your plants at home.
That's really neat concept and something that you can definitely use. Now, people are often gifted cacti as houseplants, and sometimes they don't do so well. What's some great advice for cacti and how to help keep it a little bit longer or maybe a lot longer?
Well, I think a lot of people are gifted cacti or succulents just because they are reportedly easy plants to care for, but they are actually challenging if you don't have a lot of light in your home. So for us in the Northern Hemisphere, you want to have a southern or western exposure, which is giving you really solid light. And sometimes that southern or western exposure might be blocked by another building or a tree, so you might not be getting as intense light as you need. But generally, when we're talking about cacti and most succulents, they are going to need a lot of light. And in relation to the light, you're probably going to water it a little bit more, even though you don't have to water cacti and succulents as much. And if you're somebody who is a little bit more heavy-handed on the watering, if you're a little bit more like a helicopter plant parent, then I would suggest using a little bit more of a well-draining potting medium. And if you don't have that light in your house, there's a lot of great grow light options now in the market, and with lights that don't look like purple, blue, and red.
Well, with cacti, is it very similar? We've got a cacti, and we know very little about it. Is it much like a traditional ornamental plant, where at a certain stage you're going to have to up-pot this thing? We get root bound just like a normal plant, right? Even though it's a cacti.
It really depends, actually, on the cactus and how fast it's growing. And in many cases, cacti are really slow growers. So if you've ever tried to grow a cactus from seed, you'll know it takes so many years for it to actually even look like something that you could potentially even sell on the market. So, because their root systems might not be as extensive as some quicker foliage growing plants, they probably don't need to be pot up again relatively quickly. And I have cacti and succulents that are growing in some pots that I've had for at least 6 or 7 years, whereas if I had the equivalent in some foliage varieties, I'd probably be potting those up already. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, I just want to say, because like jungle cactus have become very popular. And those are more epiphytic cacti that are growing on trees, or epipetric, which are growing on rocks in more of like the rainforest areas. So they will have definitely a different care than your traditional cacti that you would find maybe in the desert, if you will.
Okay. Now, as an eco-model and someone who is passionate about fashion and sustainability, you help connect thousands of designers to sustainable materials from all over the world. Why are sustainable materials important, and why does it make a difference? And what are sustainable materials?
Well, when I first started out in the industry, and I'll just give an overview, my background's in environmental science and entomology, and I've really looked through lots of industries. So fashion, food, are just two industries that I've looked at how to actually build more sustainable supply chains. We have all heard that, our money goes a long way, and to vote with your values and to vote with your dollar. And that's true in many cases. I mean, what we wear, what we eat, what we put on our bodies, these are all things that are connected back to the environment. And so growing plants yields not only food for us or foliage varieties, but also clothes. I mean, we just look at cotton, for instance. And cotton just doesn't go into our clothes. Cottonseed oil is actually used in foodstuffs and a number of other ways. Palm oil is another great example. These are plants and agricultural systems, and that could actually affect our environment if you're using pesticides or insecticides on those fields, if you're using excessive fertilizer. So the idea behind my first company that I started, which actually has recently been sold, so it's called Source for Style, then moved to Lesuc, and then now it just recently was sold to a Japanese textile company. But it's basically a business-to-business marketplace that connects designers to materials that can hurt the environment a lot less, or that are better for the environment. Maybe it's organic cotton, maybe it's better cotton, maybe it's khadi cottons from out of India. So these are fabrics and materials that are sourced that are have a less environmental impact on the planet.
Well, you've built an app here. You've built a healthy eating habit app. It's called Foodstand. This is a really cool app. Can you let people know what the premise is, how it works, and where people can find it?
Sure. And Foodstand is a project that I had helped on about, I would say, 2.5, 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. But the premise of Foodstand is that it's healthy, it's little nudges. It's usually not going cold turkey that will help us eat better in our own lives, but it's little gentle nudges every day, just like little changes that and little wins on a daily basis. So this is something that, we were looking into, and I was looking into with another project of mine called Sugar Detox Me, which is helping people reduce their sugar intake. And that's essentially what Foodstand does. It says, okay, well, we could help you reduce your sugar intake, or we could help you eating less meat, or we could help you by increasing and eating more vegetables just through these gentle nudges. So they serve as little reminders, little notifications, and little reward systems for you in order to be able to remind you to eat well on a daily basis.
Where can we get that? Is that a free app in which anybody can download?
Yes, that's true. And you could get it on, and it's available for iPhone and as well as Android.
Okay, now you have a book that recently came out just last month, How to Make a Plant Love You, Cultivate Green Space in Your Home and Heart. Can you tell us more about it, maybe something interesting about it, or what we expect if we pick it up?
Yeah, the premise of the book is a little bit more along the lines of a relationship guide to living with plants. And, this really has become, I think, a movement, especially for those of us who are living in, urban areas, because we don't always have a backyard to play in or even a balcony. So bringing plants indoors and noticing plants have become really wonderful, mindful rituals. And then this book really goes into a little bit more of the philosophical and spiritual premise behind having plants in our lives and developing these routines and rituals with them in our lives. So I think like one of the most interesting things about the books is that I've, brought in a lot of my community who might follow me on Instagram or YouTube to contribute to the book in ways that plants have enriched their lives. And I think that's really given the book a really nice facet to see, and oftentimes we might feel we're kind of alone in what we're going through, whether we're going through anxiety or depression or a recent breakup. But I think some of the stories that have been shared in How to Make a Plant Love You show that, lots of people go through these. And, here's how plants have, in a way, helped them through their hard times.
It's very interesting, Summer. How can our listeners follow you, find out more about you? Where can we go?
They could go to my website at homesteadbrooklyn.com. They could follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Homestead Brooklyn. And on YouTube, I do a daily channel called Plant One On Me. So they could find out more information there. A lot of good information on that YouTube channel, by the way. Well, Summer, we greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us on the program in order to enlighten Holly, myself, and all of our listeners with your garden wisdom. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.